You know that specific kind of fear you get when you're in a room with a lot of windows at night? It's that fishbowl effect. If the lights are on inside, you can't see anything out there in the dark. But anyone standing in the dark can see everything you're doing. I always thought that fear was irrational. Just my brain playing tricks on me because I watched too many scary movies. But after what happened to me 3 years ago in the Hollywood Hills, I realized that the fear isn't irrational at all, it's instinct. Because sometimes, when you're staring at your own reflection in the glass, trying to see what's behind it, there really is someone standing on the other side, just inches away, watching you breathe.
So, this first story comes from a guy named Alex. He was a college student in Los Angeles back in 2019. To make some extra cash, he used to do high-end house sitting. He's 22 at the time, big guy, not easily spooked. Here's his story.
So, like I said, I was doing this house-sitting gig for a wealthy couple who were going to Europe for 2 weeks. This place was insane. It was one of those ultra-modern smart homes tucked way up in the canyons near Mulholland Drive. It was basically a concrete box with floor-to-ceiling windows on every single wall. The view was incredible during the day, but at night, the canyon gets dead silent. And because of the way the house was positioned, you didn't have any neighbors within screaming distance. The first 3 nights were totally fine. I spent most of the time floating in the pool, eating their expensive snacks, and playing video games on a TV that cost more than my tuition. It was the 4th night when things got weird. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I had a midterm paper due at midnight online, so I was up late in the living room typing away. It was around 11:30 p.m. The living room was this massive open concept space, and the entire back wall was sliding glass doors that looked out onto the patio and the pool. I had all the lights on inside because I was studying. Outside, it was pitch black. I'm typing, and suddenly the smart home system voice chimes in. It was that generic robotic female voice, and it echoes through the whole house. Backyard motion detected. I froze. I looked up at the glass, but like I said, it was just my own reflection. I waited a few seconds, heart rate spiking a little, but nothing happened. I figured it was a coyote or a deer. There's a lot of wildlife up in the canyon, so I brushed it off. 10 minutes later, backyard motion detected. Now I'm annoyed. I got up and walked over to the glass, cupping my hands around my eyes to try and see out. The pool lights were on and the water was still. No ripples, no coyote, nothing. I sat back down, trying to focus on my essay. But then the system glitched, or at least I thought it glitched. The lights in the living room dimmed to 50%, then shot back up to 100%, then off, then on. I stood up, feeling that prickle on the back of my neck. I grabbed my phone and opened the app that controls the house. It showed that someone was manually adjusting the lighting scene from the master iPad, which was mounted on the wall in the hallway. The hallway was right behind me. I spun around. The hallway was empty. The iPad was glowing on the wall, but nobody was there. I laughed nervously, thinking, okay, rich people technology, it's probably updating or something. But then the chime happened again. This time, it wasn't motion detected. It was patio door open. My stomach dropped into my shoes. The patio door was right in front of me. I looked at it. It was closed. I could see the handle latch was down. The sensor must be malfunctioning, right? I walked over to the door to double-check the lock. I put my hand on the glass, and that's when I noticed it. You know how when you breathe on glass it fogs up? On the outside of the glass, right at eye level, about 6 feet up, there was a fresh patch of condensation. Fading, but there. Someone had just been standing there, pressing their face against the glass, watching me type. I backed away slowly. I didn't scream, I didn't run. My brain went into this weird, hyper-focused survival mode. I knew I couldn't go out the back. The front door was down the hallway past the kitchen. I grabbed a heavy metal sculpture from the coffee table, some abstract art piece, and I started moving toward the front door. That's when the lights cut out completely. Complete darkness. The only light was the glow of my laptop screen on the coffee table behind me. Then, from the darkness of the kitchen to my left, I heard a sound that I will never forget as long as I live. It was the sound of the ice maker in the fridge dispensing ice. Clatter, clatter, clatter. It was such a mundane domestic sound, but in the dark, knowing I was supposed to be alone, it was terrifying. Someone was in the kitchen, and they were comfortable enough to get a drink. I didn't wait. I sprinted for the front door. I fumbled with the lock, expecting a hand to grab my shoulder at any second. I threw the door open, ran to my car, and peeled out of the driveway. I didn't even put my seatbelt on until I was halfway down the canyon. I called the cops from a gas station on Ventura Boulevard. They went up to check the place out. And here's the part that messes me up. They found that the smart home system hadn't malfunctioned. The logs showed that the patio door had been opened but then gently closed again just seconds before I looked at it. But they didn't find anyone in the house. What they did find was in the guest bedroom, the room I was sleeping in. The closet in that room had a crawlspace access panel in the ceiling. The cops found the panel pushed aside. Inside the attic space, directly above the bed where I'd been sleeping for 3 nights, they found a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, and the homeowner's master iPad that had been missing from the charging dock. The guy hadn't broken in that night. He'd been living in the attic since before I arrived. He'd been watching me sleep, listening to me play video games, and that night, he decided to come down and mess with me. The scariest part? When the police checked the iPad, they found the photo gallery open. It was full of pictures of me, sleeping, watching TV, and one taken from the darkness of the patio, looking in at me while I was typing my essay. The police never caught the guy. The homeowner sold the place a month later. I don't do house sitting anymore, and I definitely don't like windows without curtains. That detail about the condensation on the glass is genuinely chilling. It's that realization that the barrier you think is protecting you, that sheet of glass, is actually just a window for them to shop for their victim. But if you think being in a locked house is scary, wait until you hear this next one, because at least in a house, you have walls. In this story, there was nowhere to hide.